Faith is the ability to see things that don't yet exist. Faith can turn difficulty into reality, positive reality. Here's what faith is for. Number one, faith is the ability to see it as it is. Faith doesn't mind seeing it as it is because faith is a miracle worker. Faith does not ignore the negative. Faith uses the negative. Because if there was no negative, there'd be no need for faith. If everything is okay, what would you need faith for? You need faith because it isn't okay. Now, what isn't okay? Who knows? The situation that isn't okay. So here's what faith does. Number one, faith does not ignore the negative because faith now stands as the miracle worker if you let it work. So faith sees it as it is. If it's ugly, it's ugly. If it isn't working, it isn't working. If it's a mess, it's a mess. It doesn't hurt to call a mess a mess. You don't need to fancy it up here. If it's miserable, it's miserable. If it's broke, it's broke. Faith doesn't mind admitting that. Faith doesn't mind seeing that. Here's why. Number one, you can see it as it is. That's the beginning of faith, seeing it as it is. Now, here's the second step of faith. See it better than it is. Couldn't you see beyond the mess? The mess is for today. Couldn't you look into tomorrow? The answer is yes, I guess I could look into tomorrow. Humans have this incredible ability to look into tomorrow, to look into next week. So we not only have the ability to see it as it is, the beginning of faith, to see it better than it is. Dream the dreams, make the plans, visualize, use your imagination, see it better than it is. Now here's the third step that turns faith into reality. Make it better than it is. Faith now must be invested in the muscle. But if you invest faith now in the action, you can take any situation and make it better than it is. Next, in the beginning of faith, seeing it as it is. Don't see it worse than it is. Some people have this tendency to blow it all out of proportion and say, well, it can't be that bad. If it's this bad, that's how bad it is. You don't need to multiply how bad it is by 10. That's not necessary here. Just as it is, that's the deal. Don't see it worse than it is. Now here's the next unique key to faith. Don't see it for more than it can become. There's a thin line between faith and folly. Yes, it's possible to see yourself as a millionaire, but not overnight. Somebody says, well, yes, I can see that. Don't see it for more than it can become. Yes, if it dropped out of the sky overnight, but that's not likely. But it's still possible to be a millionaire. It's still possible to be rich and wealthy. So don't see it for more than it can become so that you move into folly instead of faith. Plenty is possible without being foolish in your faith exercise. But now here's two more cautions. Number one, it might be worse than you first see it. You better look underneath. Because sometimes you just look at the surface. Better take a look so that you can really see it as bad as it is. Not to overblow it now, but to make sure you see it as bad as it really is. Now here's the next one. Give yourself a chance to understand that it could be far more in the future than what you can first see. By faith, here's all you can see. But you take the first step. Take the first step of what you can see. But give yourself a chance to be able to see it for more than what you first see. On a foggy night, if all you can see is 100 feet, here's what you do. Walk that first 100 feet, now you can see another 100 feet. You can't see the 200 feet. But if you can see 100 feet, you walk the first 100 feet, now you can see another 100 feet. So I'm asking you to take the early steps of faith. Whatever you can see it possible to become, start believing that. Have faith for that. And I'm telling you, as that starts to exercise, you'll be able to see it for more and for more and for more. The possibilities will start to increase in your own imagination.
I made a t-shirt one time that said, faith don't make it easy. Faith makes it possible. All you want is the strength to get through your life.
See, in life, everything that happens to you, there's a lesson in it. There's a lesson in it for you. If you look at it, whatever happens to you, just look at and view life that you're a student of the universe and say, what's in here for me to learn?
How many things in your life did you do that you shouldn't have done because what if? How many nights could you have slept, but what if kept you awake? How many mornings did you wake up anxious because what if was your alarm clock? What if? Not just what if. Moses wants to know, what if, pay attention to the next word, what if they? What if they? It's a good question, what if? And it's where many of us wonder and wander our whole lives. What if they laugh at me? What if they don't accept me? Now, on one hand, Moses is in a hypothetical situation because he hasn't even done anything yet, but he's just playing out the possible after effects of his obedience. What if they? But on the other hand, it's not hypothetical at all. It's historical, because Moses is afraid of the same rejection that he experienced 40 years earlier, recurring for 40 years earlier, that Moses had killed an Egyptian in defense of his people. And because he did the right thing the wrong way, he ended up on the run. And there's something about when you've tried to do the right thing and put your heart in something, but you did it the wrong way, that you don't even want to try again. And so now Moses is asking something that's hypothetical, but it's based out of what is historical, and he's projecting his past into his potential, and it's his limiting factor, but God wants him to know that that staff in your hand. Now, to us, a staff is a shepherding instrument, and Moses was using it to tend his father-in-law's sheep. But to Moses, the staff represented a whole lot more than his vocation. It represented his mistakes, because if he had never killed the Egyptian and ended up a fugitive on the run from Egypt, where he was born into or adopted into royalty, he never would have had the staff in his hand. So when God tells him what's in your hand, it causes Moses to have to reckon with the mistakes that he's made that have landed him in the position that he's in. Because when God speaks to you about your potential, he will cause you to confront your past. Touch somebody, say, handle it. So he says, what's that in your hand? And to Moses is a staff, but to Moses is also his past, and to Moses is also his instrument, the thing that he has to do what he's doing. And so there's a whole lot happening in this staff, and yet God says what you have is what you need. And God wanted to say that to a single mom today, that what you have is what you need, that he put enough in you to raise that child. He foresaw that you would be in the situation, and he compensated for what others didn't give you by putting a resolve and a grit and a determination in you that's more than enough, and everything you need is within reach. So leave your list of what you don't have alone today. What is that in your hand? The wisdom that you need is probably in a book that's on your shelf that you haven't read.